It is now time for oral questions, and I recognize the Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition.
Good morning, Speaker. And I have a question for the Premier, and I'm really hoping that he will decide to answer the question this time. I want to quote the Auditor General: unfair, speculative, subjective, and not transparent. That is how the Auditor General described the call for development process for Ontario Place. The government is ponying up some very serious cash for the Premier's vanity project. Hundreds of millions for a taxpayer-funded parking garage. $700 million to move the Ontario Science Centre so Therma gets a sweeter deal. $60 million so Therma could have that fake beach. Why won't this government take this seriously? I want to ask the Premier, does the Premier not think that wasting billions of taxpayer dollars is a big deal?
To reply for the government, the Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. Mr. Speaker, I am using words from the AG's report. The Ontario Place redevelopment was categorized as a real estate transaction subject to the province's realty directive, not procurement laws. Mr. Speaker, we made a commitment to the people of Ontario back in 2022 that we would bring Ontario Place back to life. Construction underway, and we are proceeding. Thank you.
The supplementary question.
I said yesterday the people of Ontario are not buying that kind of creative response, but they sure are paying for it. Yesterday the minister couldn't even be bothered. 2 days ago she couldn't even be bothered to answer for how under her watch this project got so out of control. Billions over budget. Wasting hundreds of millions to close the Science Centre, handing over bags and bags of taxpayer dollars to subsidize a luxury spa company that was pretty much completely broke. Instead of taking responsibility, the minister has made civil servants face questions for her decisions over and over again. Will the Premier of this province stand in his place, take responsibility, do the right thing, and fire this infrastructure minister?
Members will please take their seats. Minister of Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I hate to disappoint the Leader of the Opposition, but I am not going anywhere. Mr. Speaker, we know that today, faced with current economic conditions and market conditions, we know that everything is more expensive. We know that projects are more expensive. This is something that my ministry fails with and works with Treasury Board and the Ministry of Finance every single day so that we can keep projects moving. But, Mr. Speaker, let me use the AG's words. Some of the cost escalation is construction costs. So that would happen also if you were renovating the Science Centre. And let me use Michael Lindsay's words, the CEO of Infrastructure Ontario. Costs associated with rehabilitating and remediating the facility at 7070 Don Mills have continued to increase. Mr. Speaker, this is the unfortunate circumstance we find ourselves in. It is far more costly to build. But don't worry, Mr. Speaker, have faith, Ontarians, because this government will continue to build Ontario.
Final supplementary.
Speaker, if it was only about the outrageously ballooning budget for a project that nobody in Ontario asked for, the auditor's report makes it very clear that Therma was struggling financially. In fact, they were and are broke. They did not pass the financial test to be viable for this contract. And yet, despite warnings from staff, even at Infrastructure Ontario, the minister pushed this deal through and handed them billions in taxpayer dollars. These funds are meant to build homes, they are meant to hire doctors, they are meant to fix schools, not prop up a broke luxury Austrian spa company. Why won't the minister do the right thing, take responsibility for wasting these taxpayer dollars, and resign?
Members will please take their seats. Minister of Infrastructure.
I just want to, through you, Mr. Speaker, I just want to remind the member opposite, perhaps she conveniently forgot that I was not the minister until 2021, and I was not responsible for Ontario Place redevelopment until October 2022. But, Mr. Speaker, that's fine.
Order.
Let me.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, that's fine. Let me read contents from the AG report. Page 77 says the following: the lease between the Province of Ontario and Therme includes a financial test. The lease required Therme Group to have a net worth of $100 million. An examination by IO of Therme Group's 2020 audited financial statements show that Therme had met this financial test per lease requirements. The lease was made public by IO on October 3rd, 2024.
Response?
Thank you.
The next question, once again, the Leader of the Opposition.
Some way to treat your friends. Throw them all under the bus now, why don't you? So back to the Minister of Infrastructure. I'm going to try a different approach here because I can't get over the fact that she is not taking any accountability or responsibility here. Right now, there's a mom about to tap her card at the food basics, feeling anxious about whether that's going to go through. Right now in Sudbury, a dad is telling his kid that they can't play hockey this year because they don't have room in the budget. At the same time, this Premier's focus is on a vanity project at Ontario Place that's going to cost that mom and that dad and every other household in Ontario $400. Why is a family in Sudbury paying $400 to build a luxury spa in downtown Toronto?
Order. Opposition come to order. To reply for the government, the Premier.
Well, does the Leader of the Opposition ask that family, do they know that you voted against getting rid of the license plate sticker, getting rid of the tolls, putting money back into people's pockets, getting rid of the one fare, and make sure you tell them when that family gets their $200 for the mom, the dad, and all the kids, that you voted against it. Maybe that $200 can be applied to their kids playing hockey. We don't have it's not our money, I always say, Mr. Speaker. It's the taxpayers' money. It's the person in Sudbury's money that's been paying the taxes. But guess what, Mr. Speaker? The NDP and the Liberals, they believe it's their money. Let's not give any money back to the taxpayers because they'd rather waste it on bureaucracy and all their special interest groups that support them. We give money back to the taxpayers. We're the only jurisdiction in North America we've never raised the tax. And there's 850,000 more people working today than there was when you were in office.
I remind the members, including the Premier, to make their comments through the chair, not directly across the floor of the House. Supplementary question.
Speaker, this Premier is spending $100 million in advertising to tell people in Ontario that he's giving them a $200 check, and then he's taking $400 back, right? Yesterday, I spoke to some of the biggest manufacturers in Ontario, some of the biggest employers in this province. One common thread, Speaker, is that they can't recruit and they can't retain workers because they can't guarantee that they'll have a family doctor or an affordable place to live or that the school buses are going to show up on time. 12,000 people in Sault Ste. Marie don't have a family doctor right now. Meanwhile, this government is spending $2.2 billion on the Premier's luxury spa project in downtown Toronto. Why is the Premier making workers in Sault Ste. Marie pay $400 to subsidize a luxury spa in downtown Toronto?
Well, Mr. Speaker, whoever this big company is, I can guarantee the Leader of the Opposition one thing. They aren't voting for the NDP. The factory workers aren't voting for the NDP. They're voting for the PC party because we're putting money back into their pockets. And the same applies for the family in Sault Ste. Marie, which, by the way, the member up there is an absolute champion, building things. They're getting the $200 as well. And I find it ironic. You can tell the Leader of the Opposition couldn't run a lemonade stand. There's one thing about running a business. This is a business of Ontario. You advertise. You advertise down to the U.S. You advertise across Ontario, telling the people it's the greatest place to invest in. And we've seen that with over 136 companies around the world investing last year, investing $11 billion, creating 12,200 jobs.
Stop the clock. And ask the member for Ottawa South to withdraw the unparliamentary remark. Start the clock. The final supplementary.
Speaker, you know, $400 may not be a lot to this Premier, but it's a lot to most families. It's a lot for the average family. And they're expecting their taxes to be invested in things that would actually help make their lives better, like, for example, making highways safer in Northern Ontario. The twinning of Highway 11 and 17 has been a priority for northern communities for years, but it has not been one for these Conservatives. Winter is here. People are literally risking their lives on these highways. So I want to know, why are families in Thunder Bay and Kapuskasing being forced to pay $400 each to subsidize this Premier's luxury spa in downtown Toronto?
Please take their seats. To reply for the government, the Minister of Finance.
Sure. Mr. Speaker, thank you. What we're witnessing is an absolute failure in leadership on the other side, Mr. Speaker. Just a few short weeks ago, the fall economic statement provided relief for families in Ontario, providing a family of 5 a $1,000 tax rebate because the economy is surging. Mr. Speaker, this government is doing this without raising taxes, without raising fees, but don't take it from me. Take it from Standard & Poor's that just increased the credit rating of Ontario for the first time since 2001 to AA, Mr. Speaker. That's what good government looks like.
The member for Parkdale High Park.
Speaker, my questions to the Minister of Infrastructure. Ontario taxpayers are on the hook for more than $2 billion in subsidies to support a luxury spa in downtown Toronto. An Austrian spa company was given a 95-year deal in a shady process the Auditor General said was not fair, transparent, or accountable. 2.5 million Ontarians don't have a doctor. Schools are flooding due to disrepair. Rural emergency rooms are closing, and housing starts are collapsing. Why is this Conservative minister forcing every family in Ontario to pay $400 for a spa they will never visit?
Members will please take their seats. I'll caution the member on her choice of words. To reply for the government, the Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will reference Michael Lindsay's comments yesterday when he spoke to the public. Through the AG's own submission, the call for development was not meant to be a structured procurement. It was meant to be a real estate solicitation to take ideas from the globe. We did so creating a process that was competitive, that had non-partisan evaluation, Mr. Speaker. But while the members opposite focus on that, Mr. Speaker, I will talk to you about what's important to Ontarians. Do you know what's important to Ontarians? The Grandview Children's Treatment Centre that we opened in Ajax. That is important to Ontarians. That is a facility that we built that will provide services to families for years to come.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, if they don't care about that treatment facility, then let me talk about Michael Guerin Hospital, another hospital that will treat families in the province of Ontario, or Mount Sinai redevelopment, or West Park Healthcare Centre. Mr. Speaker, while the NDP will focus their attention on...
Member will take her seat. Minister will take her seat. Order. The opposition will come to order. Supplementary question. The member for Hamilton West and Castor Dundas.
Speaker, this minister is taking over $2 billion in taxpayers' money and spending it on a private luxury spa in downtown Toronto. This money is coming right out of the pockets of people all over Ontario, from Windsor to Thunder Bay, from Sudbury to Hamilton. So far, the minister is taking about $400 from every single household to pay for this luxury spa. We know Ontarians are struggling to find a doctor or childcare space or a place to live. There is no possible explanation for this abuse of taxpayers' money. So my question, will the minister do the honourable thing and resign?
Members will please take their seats. To reply, the Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you very much. Then I may ask the member opposite who asked this question why she didn't support the Grandview Children's Treatment Centre, why she didn't support improvements to the Michael Guerin Hospital. if healthcare is so important, why she didn't support Mount Sinai redevelopment, why she didn't.
Member for Beaches East York, come to order.
Why she didn't support the West Park Healthcare Centre, a brand new hospital in the west part of Toronto. Mr. Speaker, I am not going anywhere. I am honoured to sit in this House. I am honoured to serve the Premier, and I am honoured to serve my constituents, and I will continue to build the infrastructure that the people of Ontario depend on each and every single day.
Leader of the Opposition will come to order. The member for Ottawa Centre will come to order. The next question, the member for Bay of Quinte.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Energy and Electrification. We know that Ontario families and businesses need affordable, reliable, and clean energy to power their lives. But the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax is making everything more expensive. Higher costs at the pumps, at the grocery store, on heating bills, and for building the energy projects that we rely on. While the Liberals and NDP push for higher taxes as their solution to climate change, our government believes in innovation. Ontario is already leading with clean energy solutions like hydro, advanced nuclear, and proving we can grow the economy and cut emissions without punishing families. With energy demand expected to grow by 75% over the next 25 years, we need a plan that works. Speaker, can the minister please explain how our government is taking action to build the energy infrastructure Ontario needs while keeping costs down for our families?
The parliamentary assistant, member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and I want to thank the member for Bay of Quinte for that question. And it's why this government, our government, will choose technology over taxation every single day, full stop. We were elected to clean up the hydro mess, Speaker, and we did. And now the IESO forecasts the need for 75% more energy in the next 25 years. We will make sure we get it done right. Speaker, just last week, the Minister of Energy and Electrification directed OPG to begin engagements with Indigenous, municipal and community leaders to develop new energy generation that will give us clean, reliable and affordable energy. Regardless of the type of generation, we need the energy to power our province. Speaker, the answer lies in innovation, not in burdening families with another tax.
Thank you. Supplementary question.
Member from Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke for that answer. Speaker, families, farmers and businesses across Ontario are working hard to make ends meet. But the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax keeps driving up costs for everything they rely on: fuel, groceries, and the energy needed to run their homes and operations. Unlike the Liberals and NDP, who consistently advocate for higher taxes and more government intervention, our government has taken a different approach. Our government has shown strong leadership by prioritizing reducing costs for hardworking Ontarians and fostering a stronger, more resilient economy. We've seen the results: more jobs, stronger growth, and less red tape holding people back. Speaker, can the parliamentary assistant please explain how our government is supporting families and businesses while building the clean, reliable energy Ontario needs for the future?
Thank you very much. Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke can reply.
Thank you, Speaker, and thanks to the member again for that supplementary. It's precisely why we've taken a different approach compared to the Liberals and the NDP, an approach that supports the success of farmers, empowers businesses, and eases the burden on families across the province. We've lowered taxes, cut the gas tax, eliminated unnecessary fees, and eliminated the license plate stickers. We've created hundreds of thousands of new jobs and added billions to our GDP. Speaker, we're building net new, clean and reliable energy for generations to come. It's clean, reliable and affordable. Speaker, our government has a plan. It's working, and it doesn't include a Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax.
Thank you. The next question, the member for Humber River, Black Creek.
Thank you, Speaker. The AG report is out, and this government is still blurring the line between mismanagement and misdemeanor. In the report, the Auditor General talked about inappropriate VIN searches. Now, the Auditor General didn't talk about 2,200 or even 2,000 of them. We're talking over 22,000 inappropriate VIN searches under the watch of this government. So my question, is how many of these inappropriate and potentially at times suspicious VIN searches resulted in auto theft in the province of Ontario?
Minister for Auto Theft and Associate Minister for Auto Theft and Bail Reform.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nice to hear the NDP actually taking auto theft seriously for a change. Where have you been for the last number of years where we've been taking it seriously with a $51 million investment, helicopters, automatic license plate readers, support for police to take this crime seriously? Now, Mr. Speaker, we had a bill before this House just recently where we took VIN fraud with penalties up to $100,000 and 6 months in jail time through the provincial offences. That party voted against that, Mr. Speaker. Majority of cars that are stolen are shipped overseas. A minority stay here in Ontario. We need to crack down on VIN fraud. Cars belong in people's driveways, not shipped off into the hands of organized crime. I wish the NDP would take this problem seriously. Join the PC party. Stand up for public safety.
Thank you. And the supplementary question.
Speaker, since this government took power in 2018, auto theft has been up 525%. But this is the same government that appointed an associate minister for auto theft and not against auto theft. So my question is, what is it going to take for this government to crack down on the problems with the VIN system by implementing a VIN verification system? It's not that hard. Just do it.
Just do it. Order. Members will take their seats. The Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform. Order. Order. Associate Minister.
The NDP's approach to crime, Mr. Speaker, they'll blame the cars and let the criminals run free. We put a letter out 6 weeks ago calling for mandatory remand for violent offences, serious offences, a 3-strike penalty, automatic detention, no options for bail for criminals that are out 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times committing the same crime. Where have the NDP been? Silent, Mr. Speaker. We have a Toronto police officer got shot 2 months ago. We heard nothing from the NDP at the time. They spent all their time congratulating the member for Niagara Centre on his nomination. Nothing about the Toronto police officer who was shot. The leader of the opposition is a Toronto area MPP, Mr. Speaker. Where have they been on this issue? Take auto theft seriously. We're doing the right thing, cracking down on VIN fraud, cracking down on serious offences. We wish the NDP would stand up and join us.
Member for Hamilton West and Castor Dundas will come to order. The member for Ottawa Centre will come to order. The member for Hamilton Mountain will come to order. The Minister for Red Tape Reduction will come to order. The next question, the member for Whitby.
Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Natural Resources. Earlier this week, the Minister introduced new legislation. A part of that bill, the Geologic Carbon Storage Act, enables the regulation of commercial-scale geologic carbon storage. Commercial-scale geologic carbon storage means permanently storing carbon emissions in rock formations deep underground, which would otherwise be emitted into the atmosphere. Speaker, this technology is a crucial component of our government's strategy to reduce greenhouse gas emissions while allowing job creators and workers to continue building our province. Speaker, can the minister please tell us more about the actions our government is taking to help build a greener future for Ontario?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Well, thank you, Speaker, and thanks to the member for the question. You know, the member is right. This is a technology that is new to our province, and the ministry is developing a framework that ensures it's implemented responsibly with measures in place to safeguard both people and the environment. You know, over the past 3 years, my ministry has been consulting extensively with industry, municipalities, Indigenous communities, landowners, the public regarding this framework for carbon storage, and that feedback has helped develop the proposed act. You know, Ontario is once again on the cutting edge of innovative technology that will attract investments, create jobs, and support existing jobs. The carbon tax is driving away jobs. We're bringing them back.
fact, with innovation and technology in Ontario, it's a competitive global economy. We need to keep making the investments. We need to keep innovating. We need to keep working together to build a cleaner, more sustainable future for Ontario. This government is doing that every single day.
And supplementary question, back to the member for Whitby.
Thank you to the minister for his response. Now, during debate, I heard that the members opposite want to delay carbon storage while increasing the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax. Oh, no. Yes. The Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax is driving up the price of everything, including Ontario's natural resources. Ontario's natural resources go into building everything. A tax on our natural resources increases the cost of living for everyone in Ontario. Carbon storage, on the other hand, will create jobs, support workers, and reduce emissions. Speaker, can the minister please explain how carbon storage will reduce emissions while creating jobs and supporting workers in Ontario?
Minister of Natural Resources.
Thanks again, Speaker, and thanks again for the question. You know, my ministry has conducted some initial estimates regarding the development of commercial-scale carbon storage projects in southwest Ontario, and we expect to see a decrease of approximately 5 to 7 million metric tons of carbon per year. Well, that's hard to imagine, Mr. Speaker, so let's put that in terms that we can imagine. The equivalent of 2 million cars off the road in Ontario every year. Also, the creation of thousands of jobs to support these projects, a big boost to local economies, a reduction in commercial carbon tax for businesses in Ontario to allow them to be more competitive, to continue to make investments and innovate in our province. Mr. Speaker, this means billions of dollars for Ontario and a cleaner environment in Ontario. It's being done so we can support the people and the communities, especially in the Southwest. And Mr. Speaker, the people opposite, the members opposite, need to support this bill so we can keep innovating and growing this province.
Thank you. The next question, the member for University Rosedale.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Premier. The Toronto District School Board needs an additional $4.1 billion to repair its schools. It's the worst in the province. That's what the Auditor General found. Take Jesse Ketchum School in my riding. The school has 47 urgent repairs, including plumbing, HVAC issues, flood prevention, and electrical work. The school is in such bad shape that it would be cheaper to tear the building down than it would be to fix it. Kids should be learning in safe and well-maintained schools. My question to the Premier, what is the Conservatives doing to fix Toronto's schools?
Order. Members, please take their seat. Minister of Education.
Well, thank you, Speaker. Let me be clear. The safety and well-being of our children is my top priority. As the Auditor General clearly stated, the conditions of our schools are not a risk for our children, and our government has a plan to replace them. Since taking office, we've invested billions into repairing and upgrading schools across the province, addressing long-neglected issues left behind by the previous government. We're making real progress by building new schools and modernizing classrooms to support the needs of our growing communities. The TDSB has struggled to make the best use of its funding, including for capital improvements, with $900 million in school renewal funding that TDSB continues to bank unused year after year. I suggest the TDSB spend the money that we are providing to ensure that those upgrades are done for our schools, our children, and our teachers.
Order. The supplementary question, the member for Ottawa West Nepean.
If the government's record is so great, Speaker, release the school repair backlog total. The Auditor General's report on the Toronto District School Board highlighted some of the many challenges that schools are facing under this government. The number of violent incidents in the TDSB is the highest ever recorded, and across the province, violence is up 114%. Meanwhile, demand for mental health support for students has far outstripped the ability to hire additional mental health staff. Will the Premier finally acknowledge the problem, implement our emergency plan to end school violence, and put more caring, qualified adults in our schools to support our kids?
Members will please take their seats. Minister of Education.
Well, Speaker, under this Premier, our government's investments in mental health and student safety are at record heights, and yet this value for money report by the auditor shows that the TDSB has hit rock bottom. Year after year, we increase funding for these initiatives to reach vulnerable students across TDSB, and yet the board doesn't even have the common sense to conduct criminal background checks on some of its employees. Shame on them. Speaker, the Auditor General spells it out in the report. The TDSB is not even implementing the safety protocols mandated by our government to protect teachers and their unions. But their unions would rather run attack ads against our government rather than defend their own members from this lack of oversight. Speaker, to set the record straight, for this school year, the TDSB is projected to receive $3.3 billion through core education, an increase of over $68 million compared to last year, an increase of $350 million since we took office in 2018.
Thank you very much. The next question, the member for Ottawa-Vanier.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 2 weeks ago, I asked the Minister of Health why the government only provided a quarter of the funding to the nurse practitioner-led clinic in my riding. In response, the minister scoffed and implied that the thousands of people in my riding who are still waiting for primary care should be happy with what they got. Well, what they got is not sufficient. The minister knows, because I showed her on a map, that there are no clinics in Ottawa-Vanier. People who don't have access to a family doctor have to go to the hospital. Mr. Speaker, with all due respect to the minister, I will not stop advocating for access to primary care until every person in my riding has their own family doctor. That's why I have much more faith in the plan recently announced by our Ontario Liberal Party to make that a reality. Mr. Speaker, the primary care in Ontario is dire. 5.6 million Ontarians are either without a doctor or at risk of losing theirs. My question to the Minister of Health is simple. Does this government really believe that every person in Ontario should have access to primary care, and what are they doing about it?
The member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke come to order. The Minister of Red Tape Reduction come to order. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Health can reply.
Thank you, Speaker. You know, I really appreciate the opportunity to answer this question because today the CIHI data, which is the Canadian Institute for Health Information, actually showed that Ontario is making significant progress. In Canada, we have 85.6% of Canadians attached to a primary care practitioner. In Ontario, we are now over 90%. The plan we have is working, and of course, starting on this past Monday, we have Dr. Jane Philpott, who is now continuing the progress that we have made, and we intend to continue making progress to ensure that every Ontario resident who wishes to have a primary care practitioner will have one in the next 5 years because of the work that we've already started.
Hear, hear. Order. Supplementary question.
Mr. Speaker, in response to my question 2 weeks ago, the minister also said that this government has increased compensation for nurse practitioners. However, nurse practitioners tell me that the current salary levels have not been increased since April of 2020, not even a cost of living increase. Even when this government capped wage increases at 1% through the unconstitutional Bill 123, nurse practitioners still didn't get that 1% increase. If this government thinks that nurse practitioners are a valuable part of our healthcare system, why have their salaries not been increased in almost 5 years?
The Minister of Health.
You know, I have to compare and contrast. We have a representative of the Liberal Party who, when they were in power, cut residency positions, medical seats in the province of Ontario. 50 every year. You are now seeing the cumulative effect of that decision. 450 physicians who either had to go elsewhere to get their training or choose a different pathway. Compare and contrast that to expanded medical seats in every single medical school in the province of Ontario. 2 new medical schools in York Region and in the city of Brampton. An expanded medical school in Scarborough. Increased seats for nurse practitioners, registered nurses. We are making the changes that, frankly, either your government chose to ignore or didn't care enough to do anything about.
Stop the clock. I remind the Minister of Health it was not my government, and again remind all members that we make our comments through the chair, not across the floor of the House directly. Order. Member for Ottawa South, come to order. The next question, the member for Thornhill.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Long-Term Care. Every single senior in Ontario deserves access to support that meets their unique needs. And, Speaker, as Ontario's population ages, the challenges associated with aging also increase. And this includes the needs for support for those living with dementia and programs to help seniors stay active and connected. And many of my constituents have shared stories of loved ones struggling to access proper care, feeling isolated, or facing challenges related to affordability and safety. These are real issues that demand urgent action, and that's why our government is demonstrating leadership by ensuring our seniors have the resources they need when they need them. Speaker, can the minister please share what our government is doing to ensure Ontario seniors can enjoy the best quality of life?
The Minister for Long-Term Care.
And I thank the member for Thornhill for raising these important concerns and also for being such a great advocate for seniors, caregivers, and those living with dementia for the last 2 years. Speaker, we are deeply committed to enhancing the quality of care for seniors, no matter where they call home, whether it's in long-term care, whether it's in the community, or in retirement homes. That is why just yesterday I had the pleasure of introducing the Support for Seniors and Caregivers Act 2024, which includes $114 million of new investments for Ontario seniors. This act builds on our government's success in improving long-term care, in building thousands more long-term care beds, and connecting seniors to community support. We are investing in adult day programs, in respite care, in emotion-based models of care.
Response.
And we're including the requirement for dementia-specific programs in all long-term care homes. Speakers, we will continue to ensure that every single senior in Ontario receives the support they need and deserve.
Supplementary question, back to the member for Thornhill.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the Minister for her commitment to the people of Ontario and those living with dementia. Speaker, families in my riding of Thornhill want to ensure that their loved ones receive the high-quality care they deserve close to home. They are encouraged by our government's action to meet the needs of Ontarians' ageing population and by better supporting these people who care for seniors. But, Speaker, they want to know more about this new legislation. Specifically, they want to understand how the Support for Seniors and Caregivers Act will tangibly improve the daily lives of seniors living in long-term care, congregate settings, and in the community. Speaker, can the minister please outline how this legislation will help Ontario seniors live with dignity, comfort, and respect?
Minister of Long-Term Care.
Speaker, our seniors have built our province and our country. They have worked their entire lives. They paid taxes. They contributed to our growth and our economy. And now it is our job to take care of them and provide them with the love, care, and support that they deserve. That is why we are committed to addressing the challenges seniors face, both in long-term care homes and within the community at large. And one key initiative under this legislation, and my favorite one, frankly, is the Community Access Pilot, which expands certain services available in long-term care and make them available to seniors living in the community. So we're opening up long-term care for seniors who live in the surrounding area to come on in and get certain services, such as get a shower, get podiatry, get dementia cafes, and all kinds of different and exciting initiatives.
Response.
So this pilot will provide specialized care to more seniors beyond the walls of long-term care homes, acknowledging the vital need to support seniors wherever they reside. And under Premier Ford, our government will never stop working for Ontario's seniors.
Thank you. The next question, the member for Kiiwetinoong.
Miigwech Speaker, the people of Sioux Lookout and surrounding communities have been advocating for more long-term care beds close to home for many years. Since 2018, this government has promised to build a new long-term care facility with 76 new long-term care beds. To the Minister of Long-Term Care, what tangible steps is this government taking to deliver the long-promised 76 long-term care beds in Sioux Lookout?
To reply, the Minister of Long-Term Care.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the member for his question. Speaker, back in May, we all remember, it was a truly historic day when the member for Kiiwetinoong spoke in his Indigenous language. And back in May, right here in this chamber, the Premier made a commitment to the member opposite to get this home built in Sioux Lookout. Well, Speaker, I'm happy to say that today we are delivering on that commitment. And we have just recently approved a $2.5 million planning grant to be provided to Sioux Lookout Menoyawing Health Centre. Speaker, this planning grant means that this 96-bed project can now advance from the planning stage of development into the construction stage. With that, we've taken a major step forward in building this home so that Sioux Lookout residents can receive proper, culturally focused long-term care services in their community.
Supplementary question.
Miigwech, thank you to the Minister of Long-Term Care for sharing the news. However, community members and from Sioux Lookout may be skeptical of this government's words, but after years of seeing promises without actions to fulfill those promises. Speaker, will the Minister of Long-Term Care share a timeline for when the residents of Sioux Lookout can expect a long-term care beds to be operational in Sioux Lookout?
Minister of Long-Term Care.
Thank you. Speaker, make no mistake, our government is getting this home built. And I would like us all to just take a minute to soak in this moment, this truly historic moment. There are rare moments that we can put our differences aside and we can agree and work collaboratively across partisan lines simply because it is the right thing to do. And that's exactly what we are doing because the people of Sioux Lookout deserve this long-term care home. So I want to thank that member for his leadership because today is truly a celebration of his work. And I'm so proud to be the Minister of Long-Term Care to deliver this good news of this $2.5 million planning grant to help the Centre to accomplish this goal. Speaker, under the leadership of Premier Ford, we will continue investing into our historic build, $6.4 billion, largest capital build in the history of this country. We are committed to building 58,000 new and redeveloped beds across the province of Ontario.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next question, stop the clock. Members will please take their seat. The next question, the member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform. Every family in Ontario deserves to feel safe. Crime affects our communities, our homes, and our peace of mind. Auto thefts have been a big problem in Peel region. These crimes are not just about stolen cars. They hurt families, cost people money, and raise insurance rates. I know the government has taken action in response to this issue. Speaker, Can the Associate Minister please tell this House more about what the government is doing to tackle crime and stop auto thefts in Peel Region and across Ontario?
Please.
The Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the member from Mississauga East Cooksville for the question. Auto theft and organized crime, like armed robberies and carjackings, remain significant challenges in our communities. Our government is addressing these issues head-on through initiatives like Project Warlock. Project Warlock was launched in response to a surge of violent home invasions, armed robberies and carjackings across the GTA. The Joint Forces investigation, led by the Peel Regional Police through their Central Robbery Bureau, resulted in the arrest of 18 individuals and the laying of 150 criminal charges, Mr. Speaker. Over 17 violent incidents have been solved, and investigators have recovered 12 stolen vehicles valued at more than $1.2 million that was directly invested in through the CISO by this Ontario provincial government. But, Speaker, it's about more than just enforcement. It's about restoring safety and confidence to our neighbourhoods. Everyone deserves to feel safe and secure in their homes, in their cars and workplaces. We will not allow violence to take root in our communities. Speaker, it's time for the federal government to join us in matching the urgency and dedication we've demonstrated here in Ontario, that our law enforcement demonstrate to tackle the root causes of crime and keep.
Thank you. Thank you. Supplementary, once again, the member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Associate Minister for his continuing leadership. Speaker, auto theft and violent crimes are hurting families in Peel Region and across Ontario. These crimes are often linked to organized gangs. Many of these criminals are repeat offenders. They know how to work the system. People in Ontario want justice. They want to know that violent offenders will not be let back out on the streets. I know the government is working hard to protect families. They are taking action to stop crime, but we need stronger laws from the federal government as well. Speaker, can the Associate Minister please tell this House what Ontario is doing to ensure violent repeat offenders face jail, not bail? Thank you.
Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you to the member for the important follow-up question. The families in Ontario are rightfully outraged. Auto theft and organized crime are surging, and the federal government's failure to act decisively is leaving our communities vulnerable. Their soft on crime, catch and release policy are emboldening criminals and putting public safety at risk. The Solicitor General and I and our Ontario government have called on the federal government to immediately amend the criminal code with the following. 1. Restore mandatory minimum sentences for serious crimes that they removed. 2. Eliminate bail eligibility for repeat offenders and those charged with organized auto theft. 3. Mandate a 3-strike rule requiring pretrial detention for habitual criminals. And 4. Tighten conditional sentencing rules to ensure those convicted of serious crimes face meaningful consequences. While we wait for federal leadership, our government is taking action. We are investing in new police initiatives, expanding local enforcement capacity, and targeting the organized crime networks that are driving auto theft. Our government is standing up for the safety and well-being of Ontarians. We will not back down. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The next question, the member for St. Catharines.
Thank you, Speaker. Niagara Health is facing a $12 million deficit this year. This will have a significant impact on services. Parents with children, seniors and residents are already waiting 26 hours for care in overcrowded emergency rooms in Niagara. Consecutive Liberal and Conservative governments have left Ontario hospitals with the worst funding in the country. Through you, Speaker, why is this government continuing to starve Ontario hospitals by funding them at the lowest rate in the country?
Minister of Health.
The member is going to talk down our Ontario health system. I am going to proudly highlight what we have been able to accomplish since Premier Ford and our government came into office in 2018. In fact, since 2018, there has been a 31% increase in investments in our healthcare sector. While the NDP and the Liberal previous governments froze hospital budgets, we have stood shoulder to shoulder with our hospital partners to make sure that they have the resources they need to provide the critical care in our communities, and we'll continue to do that.
Member for St. Catharines, supplementary.
Thank you, Speaker. Through you. I am not disrespecting anyone in healthcare in the Niagara Health System. My brothers and sisters in that union, I will respect totally. Step by step, this government is dismantling our public hospitals. Every contract for private surgeries means less funding for local hospitals.
Order.
Speaker, when businesses which are motivated by profit enter the healthcare system, it is patients who have to pay the price. Speaker, through you to the minister, why is this Conservative government underfunding hospitals in favor of private surgical clinics that will put profits over patients?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Speaker. I understand the member opposite actually voted against our investments through the Ontario budgets, but the truth is that for 2 years in a row, Ontario hospital budgets have been increased by an average of 4%. Again, historic comparison to what the Liberals and the NDP were doing when they were freezing hospital budgets. We are making those investments in health, human resources, in 50 capital builds across the province of Ontario, with the equivalent of $50 billion, ensuring that hospitals have the services, the resources, the capital, and most importantly, the staff to do that critical work that we know they do so well. Thank you, Speaker.
Apologize to the member for Lambton Kent Middlesex and recognize him next.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is for the Associate Minister of Small Business. Small businesses are the backbone of communities across Ontario, driving innovation, job creation, and local economic growth. But, Speaker, we know that starting a business is no easy feat. Entrepreneurs across Ontario rely on resources and support to turn their businesses and dreams into a reality. Ontario's Small Business Enterprise Centres, or SBECs, play a vital role in supporting entrepreneurs at every step of their journey, providing expert advice, mentorship, and access to programs and services that help them succeed. Speaker, can the Associate Minister please share how our government is leveraging the expertise and resources of SBEC to support Ontario's small business community?
The Associate Minister of Small Business.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to thank the great member from Lambton, Kent Middlesex for the important question and the great work he's doing to support the small businesses in this riding. Speaker, Ontario Small Business Enterprise Centres are the cornerstone of our efforts to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. With over 47 centres across our province, SBECs provide advisory services, workshops, mentorship training and access to funding opportunities for aspiring and established business owners. They help entrepreneurs develop business plans, navigate regulations and connect with local networks. Through initiatives like the Starter Company Plus and Summer Company programs, SBECs empower entrepreneurs to pursue their goals with confidence. For example, Starter Company Plus has helped thousands of Ontarians launch and expand their businesses by providing training, mentorship and grants. It is this Premier and this government that's committed to working with our SBECs to ensure small business communities have the resources they need to thrive. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Supplementary question.
Thank you to the Associate Minister for outlining the critical role of Ontario's small business enterprise centres. Entrepreneurs often face unique challenges, from accessing financing to navigating market uncertainty. As we know, successful businesses are built on more than just great ideas. They also need support to overcome barriers and seize opportunities. That's why our government must ensure that all Ontarians, no matter where they live, have access to the tools and resources needed to build and grow a successful business. Speaker, can the Associate Minister elaborate on how our government is continuing to enhance and support available through SBECs, particularly helping entrepreneurs and underserved communities?
Associate Minister of Small Business.
Well, thank you again to the great member for the question. Speaker, our government is committed to fostering an inclusive and supportive environment for entrepreneurs right across our province. To address the unique needs of underserved communities, SPECS work very closely with local stakeholders to provide tailored programs and services. For instance, many SPECS now offer virtual consultations and webinars, ensuring access to support regardless of their geographic location. Programs like Summer Company and Starter Company Plus continue to be instrumental in helping entrepreneurs overcome barriers. By investing in SPECS and listening to the needs of small business owners, we're ensuring that Ontario remains the best place to start and grow a business. Speaker, while the Liberals turned their backs on small businesses while they were in office and continued to support the job-killing carbon tax, it is this Premier and this government that will continue to build a diverse, resilient economy that creates opportunities for everyone. Thank you.
The next question, the member for Essex.
Thank you, Speaker. My question is to the Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform. Every day our police and first responders put their lives on the line. They work hard to keep us safe, but rising costs are hurting their ability to do their job. And one of the biggest costs they face is the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax. Police need fuel to patrol the streets. Paramedics need ambulances to save lives. Firefighters need trucks to respond to emergencies. These vehicles run on gas, and gas prices are higher because of the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax. This tax makes it harder for our first responders to do their jobs, and it's putting pressure on tight budgets. Speaker, can the Associate Minister please share his thoughts on how the regressive Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax is having a negative impact on our first responders?
Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the member for Essex for that important question, and thank you to all members of this House for putting me through my paces this morning. We got to let the horses run, right? Listen, Speaker, all members of the House understand that the unnecessary Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax not only adds financial pressure on families, but it also impacts our first responders directly. The rise in fuel and procurement costs directly affect the crucial services that Ontarians rely on to keep them safe. Millions in additional costs for police services that they're paying due to the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax. It makes fire trucks more expensive. It makes ambulances more expensive, Speaker. I guess you'd have to ask the leader of the Liberal Party, Bonnie Crombie. I suspect it makes private jets even more expensive as well, Mr. Speaker. And because of this tax, every emergency call and every kilometre becomes more costly for firefighters, police officers, and other first responders. We need to scrap this ridiculous tax. Prioritize.
Thank you. The supplementary question.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm glad to hear about the actions that this government is taking to stand up for our first responders and call for the removal of the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax. Speaker, our first responders are asking for the tools that they need to do their jobs. Paramedics need fuel to reach people in crisis. Police need gas to patrol our neighbourhoods. Firefighters need fueled trucks to get to emergencies. But the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax is making everything cost more and more and more. Speaker, it's not just about money, it's about supporting our first responders with all of the resources they need to protect our communities. Speaker, can the Associate Minister please comment on the harmful impact that the Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax is having on our first responders and what our government is doing to help our first responders?
The Associate Minister of Auto Theft and Bail Reform.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks again to the member for Essex for the question. Look, this government has supported our first responders on the front line since day one. Our responsibility is to equip paramedics, police, firefighters, correctional officers, animal welfare officers with everything they need, from uniforms to advanced technology and vehicles. The funds spent on the additional Trudeau-Crombie carbon tax could have been better used to hold criminals accountable or to assist victims. It could have gone towards new police cruisers or additional drug testing devices to enhance road safety, Mr. Speaker. Public safety expenditures are substantial, covering everything from salaries to bulletproof vests and automatic license plate readers. Despite these costs, our government is unwavering in ensuring the safety of Ontario. I don't understand, Mr. Speaker, why the leader of the Liberal Party, the carbon tax queen, Bonnie Crombie, doesn't take this seriously. Maybe it's because they don't have a carbon tax in the Hamptons, Mr. Speaker. Rest assured that this government will stand up for Ontario families, keep them safe, and keep fighting this ridiculous, regressive job.
Member for Nickel Belt.
Thank you, Speaker. In October, a proposed tobacco lawsuit settlement between the province, including Ontario and Big Tobacco, was announced, with a total payment of $24 billion, a far cry from the $500 billion that was sought. And there is nothing in the proposed deal to actually reduce smoking. The Canadian Cancer Society and other healthcare organizations have criticized the settlement as insufficient and have called for changes before it receives final approval. Will the government make sure that the new foundations will be allowed to support initiatives to reduce smoking before final approval in January?
Attorney General.
You can well imagine, Mr. Speaker, this is a very complex legal matter. We've been engaged in it for quite some time, Mr. Speaker. There are a lot of interested parties. There are a lot of people with opinions. It's being dealt with through former Chief Justice Winkler. He's the mediator in it, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to speak to content because it's still a matter that's a live issue. It's effectively before the courts, Mr. Speaker. So I really can't address it any more than that, except to say that healthcare is a serious file for us, Mr. Speaker. Smoking is a serious matter for us, as are other ancillary products and actions. Mr. Speaker, it's important that we continue to take this seriously, but I really can't delve into a debate about the contents of the negotiations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question. The member for Toronto Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Question back to the Premier, as this is a historic case which will set a significant precedent. Non-monetary clauses are on the table, such as the ones forcing big tobacco companies to make public the court documents showing that they intentionally hid and distorted the science, documents this government currently possesses. These documents show how big tobacco companies facilitated deaths of hundreds of thousands of Ontarians. There are lessons here that will help ongoing public interest tobacco litigation in other jurisdictions, and it will even impact modern climate justice lawsuits, evolving vaping laws and other regulations. My question to the Premier, and it requires a simple yes or no answer. Does he agree with the Canadian Cancer Society that document that disclosure can and should be part of the final agreement, or is he planning to let big tobacco off the hook?
Members will please take their seats. The Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I can offer this, Mr. Speaker. If they have specific ideas, I'm certainly willing to hear them and to receive them, but I can't get into the contents of the negotiations and the court matters. But I am willing to receive them and take them into consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That concludes our question period for this morning. There are 3 members who have